The villainous Koopa King Bowser was up to his old tricks yet again, capturing Princess Peach and taking her to his castle. This time, though, things were very different. Mario was nowhere to be seen. The Toads looked high and low, but he mysteriously vanished. In these desperate times, they made wishes upon the stars to bring new heroes to this world, and the stars answered their prayers by summoning John Smith, the Peacemaker, and Yogi Bear. Why did the stars choose these two in particular? So anyway, who will come out successful in the great mission to rescue Princess Peach?
That's where they're holding flag. Nothing like a bloodbath to start the day.
They call you Peacemaker.
I cherish peace with all my heart. I don't care how many men, women, and children I need to kill to get it.
Time to kick ass and chew peace. What is up, Galaxy Video? It's me, Aqua, and there's only one bringer of peace that can save Princess Peach. Inherently going in, I think you can pretty easily tell that Peacemaker, despite being a little dull at some points, is way smarter than Yogi. His strategy is really on point when it comes to missions. During the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker competed directly with the likes of Rick Flag and Bloodsport. The latter had taken Superman into the ICU, some of the best strategists in the verse, yet he was still able to compete very well with both, even betraying both by the end as a double backstab. This is also shown in the comics, as Peacemaker is called on several occasions by Amanda Waller to join the Suicide Squad. Hell, he's even stopped border wars in his older runs, which is way more than Yogi's ever had. Yogi only really ever succeeds, sometimes, trying to steal picnic baskets and making horrible movies. Did we forget the time he kept failing time and time again to escape the park? Yogi fails at nearly everything he does. I know facing Bowser and his army will inherently be a challenge for Smith. It's gonna take trial and error. Peacemaker can deal with this. It's not like Peacemaker lacks anything to counter the Bowser army. His helmet with the sonic boom could render most dead in seconds, due to how impactful its area of range can be, as seen when it caused a person to just explode on contact. There's also his fuck beam, which is just a giant-ass laser with the word fuck in it. Isn't that quirky? Hell, he probably could cheese most foes anyway with his shrink helmet, which, as the name implies, shrinks any opponent. Plus, don't forget he's in DC Comics. Most things Bowser and his army could throw aren't necessarily new to John or his world. Sure, you can make the argument Peacemaker hasn't dealt with all of it himself, but he's not a slouch because of that fact. The guy was tasked with killing a giant star alien. You can't say Yogi surpasses that in any meaningful way. In comparison, Yogi was trembling in fear when basic humans with a few weapons were coming for him. Or when he was being shot with several arrows by Snagglepuss, and he ran away in fear. I can very easily see Yogi being scared shitless of whatever Bowser throws after him. He's not that experienced with the things that are in Mario. Hell, even if he was confident enough to keep going, I think there's an even bigger underlying issue here. Yogi loves food. A common trope you see in Yogi Bear media is him trying to steal a picnic basket. When he's in the wondrous world of Mario, with many different power-ups that look fucking tasty, like mushrooms, flowers, etc., what is going to stop Yogi from getting blindsided by the food? Ultimately, John just has the better tolerance and maturity for this mission. He's going to stick to it and endure anything in his way, using his superior strategy, better experience, arsenal, and more to defeat Bowser. While Yogi is going to be very easily distracted thanks to the wide assortment of food in the world of Mario, and he's just gonna be fucking scared, let's just be honest. Peace is on our side, baby. Rock out.
You're late, you fucking dickheads! Go fuck another fish, asshole!
Here comes Yogi!
Looks like we both got two debates each, but I only need one to show why this barrel saved Peach. Hey! I guess I'll start off with the biggest disadvantage against this bucket head. I know it's kind of an overdone trope to go, haha, the goofy funny one just wins by default, but I think that should definitely apply here. By default, Yogi is going to adjust more easily to the wacky world of Super Mario by virtue of being a wacky cartoon character. At the very least, he fits in a lot better than the grizzled, gun-toting super soldier who's in the newest Mortal Kombat. I mean, sure, that's nothing to scoff at, but in context, I don't think anyone can deny he's kinda just a stronger-than-average dude with a gun. I don't think Bowser's got anything to worry about here, given his troops have access to magic, an entire air fleet, sentient bullets the size of entire castles, ghosts, space travel, the dreaded so much more. Sure, none of that's really out of place in DC, but as far as I could find, Peacemaker hasn't really come into contact with any of it. Or when he has, he's usually on the sidelines while others take care of the big threats. Yogi, in comparison, has already encountered most of what Bowser's forces can throw at him. Magic? His neighbors in Jellystone do it casually. Airships? Yogi's got his own, plus the magical Spruce Goose. Ghosts? He's buddies with Casper and the goated Harry Scary. Space? Been there, done that several times. Hell, this won't even be his first time saving a princess from an angry kidnapper. Sure, John's technically done more impressive things, having a long comic history and all, but in terms of experience, Yogi should still fare a lot better here. If anything, this will just be another grand old adventure for him and his friends. And speaking of which, Yogi has quite a few of them that he can fall back on for support if needed. Granted, sure, some will definitely be more useful than others, but those useful ones include Peter Potamus with his time-traveling hot air balloon and Hippo Hurricane Holler, the Vigilante El Kabong, and magic users like Winsome Witch or even the Genie Shazan to help counter some of the more magical enemies in the Koopa army. While not something I want to wholly rely on, I think it is worth mentioning since John Cena here doesn't really have as many options for support. He's got Eagly, who I guess could be a useful distraction, but overall is literal bird brain. And there's Vigilante, another gun-toting, well, vigilante who seems to be even less versatile than Peacemaker. And anyone else is pretty much just an acquaintance at best or not someone I'd see him wanting to bring along. Yogi's getting to already have experience taking down big-time threats anyway, like the one and only Mr. Bigot. Yes, that's a real character, look it up. That's assuming Yogi himself wouldn't be enough to save the Mushroom Kingdom. Sure, he can be pretty bumbling and his intelligence tends to fluctuate, but I see no reason he couldn't pull this off. Aside from in Jellystone, Yogi's always been a pretty quick-witted and clever guy, whether he be using it to steal a picnic basket or saving the day against a bigger bad. Does that mean Yogi would be able to take Bowser on in an actual fight? Probably not, honestly. But he should definitely still be able to outwit him and exploit his weak spots or questionable arena designs. You know, like how basically every encounter with him in a Mario game goes. And as I alluded to earlier, Yogi's naturally cartoonier physics should let him survive long enough to do so. Dude's endured getting crushed, flattened, exploded on, burned, even basically getting nuked from inside out. Whereas if any of this happened to Peacemaker, who comes from a tonally very different world, that'll be... And all of that's why I think this smarter-than-average bear will be the Mushroom Kingdom's new hero, and our beloved princess will have one hell of a cake to reward him with. Oh yeah, that's another thing. This dude will do anything for food, so yeah, there's another closing argument. Okay, back to you, Aqua.
Yogi has it better than a millionaire.
Hey, hey,
Just because he's smarter than the average bear. Just because he's smarter than the average bear.
You see,
Yogi Bear.
doesn't kill people.
because he's a
Bear.
He's a dark creature of the night.
he's a jackass who wrestles with
Bears.
just like clowns and throws them in
Parks.
so they can break out of
Parks.
and then
Steal picnic baskets.
You raised some fair points, Adam Gregory. And this is gonna be way tougher than I thought. But that's no biggie. I cherish this W with all of my heart, and I don't care how many men and women I have to debate to get it. First off, I definitely underestimated Yogi's experience, and I will concede on that. He's definitely seen some of the various things that are in Mario. And yeah, while I can agree that Yogi fits better into the world of Mario, you cannot tell me that Peacemaker isn't fucking wacky either. His entire intro is just a giant-ass dance sequence. It has a pet eagle, a peace jet, hell, even giant fucking robots. He's fought aliens before as well. Sure, maybe a more humanoid character isn't as goofy as Yogi. But that really isn't a fair point when we're talking about the DC universe, which has wacky events every other Tuesday, like people punching holes through reality, or reality warpers obsessed with Batman. Sure, you could make the argument that not every threat in the DC-verse Peacemaker has fought directly, but he still should be somewhat knowledgeable on the things that are compared to Mario at the least. Like I said, Peacemaker has fought alongside some of the strangest villains in comic history on the Suicide Squad.
Bird.
Besides, normal Mario adventures aren't that wacky. They save most of the crazier stuff for the RPG titles. Sure, Yogi may have once saved a princess before, however, in the episode, Yogi barely does anything to actually help the situation. They didn't even intentionally find the princess. They stumbled onto her and ran away with her. There's no direct confrontation or anything of that sort. Yogi's only experience in this scenario is running away, which is exactly the problem. John surprisingly doesn't have this problem. He fights for truth and justice all the way. Even in the fucked up world of Mortal Kombat, he still fights on. All he really has to do is shrink Bowser and his lackeys and just leave with Peach. He barely has to do anything, and if he for some reason couldn't just shrink them, he has other weapons like the jet, his helmets, or the robots as I mentioned earlier. Yogi definitely has allies, I won't lie, and given the right circumstances he could win with them. But let's not act like cartoon shenanigans won't happen, in which they fail and fail over and over again before they make any actual progress, while John does actually have competent allies. Vigilante may be airheaded, but he's still very impressive in terms of skill. Harcourt is also useful, being a part of Amanda Waller's crew for years, so she definitely has the training to help John on this quest. So while they may not be as versatile as Yogi's crew, they are less prone to make mistakes and are way more competent. Ultimately, what this will boil down to, no matter what, is that while Yogi has versatility and fits more into the world of Mario, he and his crew are more prone to either 1. Running away like a wimp because they're scared shitless, or 2. Making numerous mistakes before they could get to Peach, while John can do the mission with less effort, with his assortment of weapons, experience, and skill. Sure, Yogi could do it if everything goes right, but Peacemaker ultimately has the right stuff to get to the end quicker.
This place needs peace. Bad. And like me, folks here will do whatever it takes to get it. So bring on Shao, Reiko, and those dickhead sorcerers. I'll drop them all first chance I get.
Hey, that can't be the way.
Alright, Aqua, you raised some fair points, but unfortunately for you, I'm smarter than the average debater. Just ignore my track record. So Peacemaker's a lot more resourceful than I gave him credit for, but I'm still not convinced that means he'll be the best equipped for this job. At the end of the day, this is still a guy who's at his best finding his fellow street tiers and super soldiers, and even then he's gotten his ass handed to him plenty. This dude's first instinct was to try and shoot monsters made out of lava, and once he tried to square up against Eclipso, a godlike being with the power to possess people. It went about as well as you'd expect. Obviously not to say Bowser's on that level, and you can argue these are just anti-feats, but this headstrong trend of shoot first, ask questions later, I don't see doing him any favors. It's at least not going to work against a swarm of dry bones or stop a Magic Koopa from turning him into bricks. Peacemaker's dealt with wacky shit before, but I'd argue it's nowhere near as much as your Superman, Suicide Squads, or even Batman. Now, one thing I will admit, yeah, it's no contest who's the more courageous of the two. But this can also be pretty inconsistent. He's gotten himself in loads of dangerous situations before without breaking a sweat, and has even been willing to go on these adventures in the first place. So I don't think it's fair to say he'd definitely be a blubbering baby about confronting Bowser's troops just because the Ghost Chasers went crazy on him. And honestly, who's to say just grabbing the princess and booking it wouldn't also be a viable strategy? Literally one of the most iconic final bosses in Mario is him just running away from Bowser and hitting a conveniently placed button at the end. Either that or just pull some other cartoon shenanigans to outwit him if fighting's really out of the question. I dare say it would be a safer approach than Peacemaker likely just going in guns blazing. As far as actually reaching the princess in the first place, you are right that, for lack of a better term, the rule of cartoons will likely dictate that Yogi and friends make more mistakes than John would. But that doesn't change the fact that they still have the better means of getting to World 8 in the first place. And besides, they do ultimately still succeed more often than not, even if there's setbacks or it's not how they planned it. There's also just as many instances where good old dumb luck works out for them in the end. Hell, they rescued Glamour in not that dissimilar way to Mario 3. Plus, Yogi can afford to make more mistakes in the first place thanks to that classic cartoony endurance he has. John's a lot more resourceful than I gave him credit for, I'll give you that, but his Jets, Eagles, and fellow super strategists are still going to be shit out of luck if Bowser pulls out any of the big guns. I mean, you didn't really bring up how these are going to stack up to the Koopa Troop, or what's stopping Bowser from taking Peach to a place where John can't follow. At least, not so easily. That's not an issue Yogi's gang is going to run into since they just have a lot more resources to at least make sure he's always going to be in their sights. Of course, the Peacemaker's not going to give up that easily, but when the going gets tough, I still see Yogi pulling this off a lot easier. He's got the tools, he's got the backup, and despite the slander, I fully believe he's got the smarts and guts to pull this off. So when all is said and done, the Mushroom Kingdom is going to see that he's also a lot more heroic than the average bear.
And I'm not just talking about the treats and snack-type goodies. No, a picnic basket holds a lot more than that. It holds dreams.
What are we looking at?
I don't know.
Peace is calling, and it's your turn. But before that, make sure to hit the subscribe and notification bell for part 2.
Here's what I think. You should go click a link in the description to check out this channel's Discord or Patreon. And of course, don't be shy about your thoughts on who you think is winning this. Looking forward to your comments.